Hello, I am the Full Metal Cowboy, and there is going to be a high bounty on this one. So let's start the review.
I think it's time to blow this scene. Get everybody in the stuff together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
It is the year 2071, and Mars has become the central hub of human civilization ever since a hyperspace experiment on the moon failed and made Earth uninhabitable. The entire solar system has been accessible thanks to reliable hyperspace gates. And crime syndicates have exerted their power and influence over the government and the ISSP, which stands for Intersolar System Police. As a result, the ISSP has put in a bounty system similar to the Old West and has been included to deal with fugitives, terrorists, and other criminals. The bounty hunters are usually called cowboys. Bounty hunters Spike Spiegel and Jet Black are flying around space and trying to catch their bounty.
If there is a blinding aspect, it is the animation.
For 1998, the animation was pretty good back then, and it still looks good today. Some episodes have some cool animation effects as well. Cowboy Bebop was animated by Sunrise, and there is one apparent note about this show. Apparently, Cowboy Bebop's success led to 3 staff members from Sunrise that would later co-found the studio that we know today as Studio Bones. Correct me if I'm wrong in this case, but other than that, the action scenes are well animated and the visuals are even breathtaking at times.
Hello, I'm Mr. Ed.
If there are any anime purists out there that have not seen Cowboy Bebop yet, consider this recommendation an exception. The English dub is very good and hardly Hello, Full Metal Cowboy
I'm successful! You have just been hacked by me.
Who the hell is this?
Someone is watching you very closely. Bye-bye!
Okay, that was weird. Well, back to the review.
The reason I address that Cowboy Bebop's dub is hardly flawed is because there is one voice actor in particular that gets a crazy amount of praise, and still does to this very day. Because, for all these years, there is really no denying that when it comes to Steve Blum and his entire performance as Spike Spiegel, I can simply say this: that entire performance was badass. That entire performance was awesome. And to put it simply, Steve Blum was perfect as Spike Spiegel. There was no botched line anywhere. He was on his A-plus game that whole entire time. I'm not the first person to say anything remotely like that. Wendy Lee, as you would guess, sounds sexy as Faye Valentine. Bo Billingsley has a cool father-like tone as Jet, and Melissa Fawn is charmingly silly as Ed.
Hacked again! Told you I was watching you. Now I'm going to set up a few coded links so I can pop in to interrupt your review to test your noise levels. So keep up with the review, FMC. Test away!
Cowboy Bebop's English dub can be considered better than the original Japanese version, and I have known some purists that mention that Cowboy Bebop's dub was very good.
I personally love the dub. It was spot on and the voices matched. So what do I think of the subtitled version?
The answer? I find it underrated compared to the dub. The voice cast of the subtitled version had some well-known voice actors such as Koichi Yamadera, Megumi Hayashibara, Unsho Ishizuka, and even Norio Wakamoto is in the subbed version, and he plays Vicious.
There is nothing wrong with the subtitled version of Cowboy Bebop, but since I reside in America, this is kind of a very popular opinion about the English dub, is that, yes, it's very good. So, yeah, the subtitle version is overshadowed by the dub version. At least from what I see.
The person responsible for the English dub of Cowboy Bebop is none other than Mary Elizabeth McGlynn. If there is one aspect that really struck all the chords right, it is the soundtrack by Yoko Kanno. Some people consider Cowboy Bebop's soundtrack to be her best. There is one interesting fact about the soundtrack. It is that Yoko Kanno formed a band known as the Seatbelts, and it also included over 70 musicians, which they resided in Japan, New York, and Paris. I consider this to be impressive. If you try listening to the soundtrack without the show, it may feel like you're listening to an album rather than a soundtrack. The soundtrack really made a permanent impression on me, and my personal favorite moment that involved the soundtrack was the two songs used in the cathedral scene, which were Rain and Green Bird. Hell, the opening theme kicks so much ass, and the Real Folk Blues is a good closing theme. So the music in general is just fantastic.
The soundtrack is... how would Ash Williams put it?
Groovy.
What really makes Cowboy Bebop impressive is that some scenes have music playing and not have much dialogue in it. This can sometimes be a symbolic example that silence can be indeed golden. This is Yoko Kanno's most famous and critically acclaimed soundtrack. Anime fans mostly rejoice when Yoko Kanno is involved in musical compositions ever since she finished her work on Cowboy Bebop. She is mostly a fan favorite in the anime community when it comes to anime soundtracks, and that should come as no surprise.
Yoko Kanno may be popular, but she is talented. I do appreciate the work that she has done up to this very day.
The characters are also great. Spike is the rogue badass with the past catching up to him, Jed is a cool guy who happens to be captain of the Bebop, and Faye is a con woman.
I and Ed are the cutest things on the Bebop, unlike a certain anime reviewer like FMC, who only has cats.
Hold on!
Penguins. Penguins. Penguins.
Pardon me, if you don't mind. I need to make a phone call. Hi, would you like to know 3 things that particularly annoy me?
Okay, sure.
Interruptions, horseplay, and women who tease me while I am busy. So tell me this, why are all 3 of these things neatly gathered in my review?
Because you are cursed by the anime gods.
You're turning me a punch hacker girl!
There is a common theme that runs throughout the entirety of Cowboy Bebop, and as well as throughout all the main characters, and that is the pasts of all these characters. It definitely sounds like an overused trope, but I think the past is something we all quite can't forget, which doesn't make this trope cliched, to say the least. It's just a common one that just seems to be effective most of the time. Cowboy Bebop claims to be a genre unto itself. I am not sure how to give a clear analogy on that, but it has interesting themes that are unique to the show. There are some homages to famous movies in this show. This is an anime that knew how to treat adults and people who like movies, music, science fiction, western, and so forth. Shinichiro Watanabe really nailed the direction of this anime because he always liked to mix up different opposing styles to make something completely new and unordinary. Cowboy Bebop has elements of western, space opera, film noir, martial arts, and jazz music. All these elements blended extremely well, and this was a very unique anime at the time, and I can understand why some people consider Cowboy Bebop to be revolutionary at the time. Since the popularity of Cowboy Bebop soared past through space, some may think Cowboy Bebop is overrated. I can see that, but it is considered an influential anime nonetheless. And I see why. A lot of people have universally praised the hell out of this show. The stories, animation, characters, music, and style are blended in so well that it almost makes it hard to see animes of this caliber. In terms of this style, Cowboy Bebop does not have much of a main storyline except for episodes like Ballad of Fallen Angels, the two-part episode Jupiter Jazz, and the two-part finale The Real Folk Blues. And those 5 episodes are what you could call plot episodes, while the remaining 21 are standalone episodes. With that said, those episodes are not even considered filler. Some of the ideas in these standalone episodes really stand out impressively. Here are some examples: Sympathy for the Devil, Waltz for Venus, Ganymede Elegy, etc., etc. If there is a drawback, I could say that this show could have gone a bit longer. If you stick to this anime long enough, I guarantee you'll like the ride.
If you have not seen Cowboy Bebop yet, then do yourself a favor and watch this damn series. It will not disappoint you unless you are extremely picky.
Just like you, FMC.
Cowboy Bebop was available by Bandai Entertainment. Unfortunately, Bandai Entertainment went under, and Cowboy Bebop was previously out of print until Funimation came along and rescued this gem of an anime.
Yay! Funimation rescue! Do-do-do!
Cowboy Bebop is now available by Funimation. The manga adaptation Cowboy Bebop Shooting Star, written by Hajime Yatade and illustrated by Ken Kyuga, as well as another manga adaptation simply titled Cowboy Bebop, is also written by Hajime Yatade but illustrated by Yutaka Nanten. These 2 manga adaptations were available by Tokyopop, and they are both out of print. Cowboy Bebop the movie is available by Sony Pictures, and I will review it next.
And I will hack into that one too.
Cowboy Bebop is a smash hit jam session that has become a genre unto itself. It has thrills, action, humor, and most of all, fun. It is a hard one not to like.
And it has been labeled as a lot of anime fans' favorite show of all time, which includes all of the top anime lists it's in on.
However, not only anime fans like this show, some people who don't watch anime do admit that they did enjoy this series. Cowboy Bebop has an American influence, and it appeals to viewers that like anime, sci-fi, action flicks, and westerns. It may not be everyone's cup of tea, but it is definitely worth trying.
At least 1 out of 10 anime fans don't like it.
Some will say that Cowboy Bebop is one of the greatest anime ever made, but I think that's stretching it a bit too much. But
No, just you, FMC. Mainly say that it's the greatest anime of all time.
But I will agree in calling it one of the finest anime ever made. It is truly a gem.
Ditto for score!
That being said, I give Cowboy Bebop a 10 out of 10.
Well, that ends my review. If you liked what you see, feel free to subscribe to my channel if you feel so inclined. And with that said, I will see you in the next review.
The real folk blues. 悲しみが知りたいだけ泥の代わり使った人生も悪くはない 一度きりで